Number 1. Embracing curiosity amidst change. Have you ever noticed an increasing sense of curiosity as you age, only to find that your questions are often met with misunderstandings or dismissive remarks from the younger generation? In today's fast-paced world, the technological divide can leave us feeling powerless and frustrated. However, there are ways to bridge this gap and foster understanding without the sting of sarcasm or arrogance. In this video, we will explore 5 essential insights to help you navigate your relationships and interactions as you grow older. We'll discuss the importance of avoiding direct questions, expressing humility and compassion, and managing our emotions effectively. By the end, you will learn how to communicate more successfully with younger generations while maintaining your dignity and self-worth in a world that often overlooks the wisdom gained through experience. Stay tuned, as the insights shared today can empower you to connect meaningfully, avoid unnecessary conflict, and enhance your overall well-being in this new chapter of life. If you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so, and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any videos. Your support is invaluable. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and sharing it to help me continue spreading these valuable lessons. If this topic resonates with you, comment 1. If not, comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and create better content for you. Now let's begin. Even if you're curious, avoid asking questions. As we journey through life and grow older, a natural shift occurs in our bodies, minds, and senses. The physical freedom we once enjoyed may gradually fade, our senses may dull, and yet in this phase of life, something fascinating happens. Our curiosity intensifies. In response to our physical limitations, our minds and hearts yearn to learn, explore, and understand the world in new ways. This is a beautiful irony. As our physical world constrains us, our intellectual and emotional worlds expand. However, a significant challenge arises: the rapid pace at which the world is changing, especially with technology. The younger generation, including our grandchildren and neighbors' kids, grows up in a world where information is instantly accessible. With a swipe or tap, they can find answers to almost anything, a stark contrast to our experience of gathering knowledge through books and conversations. This creates a gap between us, one that can feel overwhelming at times. We often find ourselves perplexed by the speed of change, sitting in front of devices we struggle to operate and hearing unfamiliar terms. Our natural response is to ask questions to bridge this gap, driven by our curiosity and desire to understand, as we refuse to be left behind. However, this often leads to a difficult reality. Instead of welcoming our curiosity, the younger generation can react in ways that make us feel small or irrelevant. When we ask, "What is that?" or "How does this work?" we frequently encounter 2 common responses that can be painful. The first is sarcasm, with laughter or flippant comments suggesting we should already know the answer or that our questions are unworthy of their time. The second response is equally hurtful, the suggestion to look it up ourselves. Such reactions transform our attempts to connect into moments of irritation or impatience, cutting deep into our sense of self-worth. Imagine being someone who has lived a rich life, raising children, building a career, and contributing to society, only to feel belittled in your later years. These dismissive interactions serve as painful reminders of the widening gap between generations, indicating that the world we once knew is slipping further out of reach. These moments aren't just unpleasant. They carry a sense of disrespect, devaluation, and even obsolescence. Yet we are far from obsolete. Just because the world is changing rapidly and technology is evolving doesn't mean we have nothing left to contribute. Our generation has faced challenges that today's youth could never imagine, weathering literal and metaphorical storms, living through wars, recessions, and monumental cultural shifts. We possess invaluable experience and wisdom that deserve recognition and respect. Number 2, nurturing resilience and connection. We possess resilience, a quality that allows us to navigate life with strength and grace, even when the odds are stacked against us. So at this stage in life, why should we allow ourselves to feel diminished by the impatient or dismissive reactions of a generation that hasn't yet walked in our shoes? The answer is straightforward. We shouldn't. However, the challenge remains. How do we reconcile our intense curiosity with the often harsh responses we receive from younger people? I believe the key lies in wisdom and emotional intelligence. Instead of reacting with frustration or hurt when our questions are dismissed, we can step back and approach these situations differently. We can satisfy our curiosity in ways that preserve our dignity and foster positive interactions. One effective method is to control our emotions and approach conversations with kindness. Instead of directly asking questions that may provoke sarcastic responses, we can shift the conversation by offering genuine compliments or expressions of admiration. For instance, rather than asking, "What is that?" or "How does that work?" we could say, "You are so fortunate to have all this information at your fingertips," or "It's amazing how quickly you can find what you need these days." These statements do more than soften the interaction. They open a door for younger people to share their knowledge without feeling quizzed or challenged. By complimenting their abilities, we create an environment of mutual respect. It becomes less about the question and more about the connection. Often, when we approach with positivity, we find that the younger generation is more willing to share what they know. They feel seen and appreciated, leading them to respond with generosity and kindness. This approach allows us to gain the information we need without feeling like we are imposing or being made to feel small. It's a delicate balance, but it can be incredibly rewarding. We don't have to abandon our curiosity. In fact, we should never give it up. It keeps us young at heart, engaged with the world, and open to new experiences. However, we can choose how we express that curiosity in ways that foster connection rather than division. We can be both curious and wise, eager to learn while being mindful of how we approach the learning process. Ultimately, what we seek is not just information, but understanding, connection, and respect. By approaching our curiosity with a gentle, thoughtful touch, we can bridge the generational divide and continue engaging with the world in meaningful, fulfilling ways. This is how we grow, not just as individuals, but as part of a larger, interconnected community. In doing so, we remind ourselves and the younger generation that we are far from irrelevant. We are still here, still learning, still contributing, and still deserving of respect. Number 3, the nature of arrogance. We have all encountered people whose words come across as arrogant. But what drives someone to present themselves in such a manner? The truth is that arrogance often stems from a deeper, more fragile place. Our inherent need to protect our self-esteem. For many, self-esteem forms the foundation of their identity and sense of worth, shaping how they see themselves and engage with the world. When that foundation feels shaky or uncertain, arrogance often steps in as a defense mechanism, masking insecurities that may lie just beneath the surface. At its core, Arrogance is a tool some use to shield themselves from the vulnerability of feeling inadequate or lacking confidence. Those who appear arrogant often need to bolster their sense of self-worth by projecting an image of superiority. When someone lacks genuine confidence, they may feel compelled to create a facade that says, "I am better than you," even though this is far from the truth. It is not that they truly believe themselves superior. Rather, they are attempting to convince both themselves and others that they are. When people with this mindset achieve success, they are quick to claim full credit for it. Their successes become a reflection of their supposed greatness, a validation they desperately seek. However, when they fail, the narrative shifts dramatically. Instead of taking responsibility for their mistakes, they deflect blame onto external factors. Statements like, "I didn't fail because of me. It was due to circumstances beyond my control," reflect their efforts to avoid confronting the painful truth. Like everyone else, they are fallible. This refusal to accept failure or mistakes is deeply tied to a weak sense of self-esteem. Admitting failure would mean confronting vulnerabilities, and that's something they struggle to face. Bragging is another subtle form of arrogance we often encounter. Consider someone who invites others to dinner, not out of kindness or generosity, but as a way to flaunt their wealth or status. Their motive isn't about making others feel good. It's about making themselves feel important. They aim to prove something and demonstrate their value by showcasing what they can provide. These small acts of boasting may seem harmless on the surface, but they often reveal a deeper need within the person to establish their worth in the eyes of others. Number 4. The perils of bragging and self-disclosure. Bragging can often serve as an exaggerated display of one's achievements or abilities, distorting reality by making something minor seem grander than it truly is. While these actions may initially appear beneficial, a dinner invitation, for instance, might seem like a grand gesture. It is not the act itself that matters, but the intent behind it. When the need to elevate oneself takes precedence, such gestures become less about generosity and more about self-promotion. The more a person engages in this behavior, the more transparent their insecurities become. As we grow older and mature, we begin to realize how unnecessary and even harmful bragging and arrogance can be. The more we boast, the more we reveal the emptiness behind the facade. The moment we brag, people notice. They see through the act, and what they perceive is not confidence but fragility. Bragging doesn't elevate us in the eyes of others. Instead, it diminishes us, exposing gaps in our self-esteem and highlighting how much of our worth is built on shaky foundations. With maturity comes an understanding that true confidence arises from within. It doesn't need to be flaunted or exaggerated. Inviting someone to dinner, for example, should be a simple and sincere act of kindness, not a platform for boosting our ego. When we give without the need for praise and help, without expecting anything in return, that is when we truly grow. Humility, not arrogance, is the true mark of strength. It doesn't require recognition or validation. Rather, it is rooted in a quiet confidence that doesn't need to shout to be heard. It is easy to fall into the trap of using arrogant words or actions to prove ourselves to others, especially in a world that often celebrates outward displays of success and achievement. However, the more we mature, the more we realize that our actions should speak for themselves. We don't need to employ boastful language or showcase our accomplishments to prove our worth. The more we do, the more we risk exposing just how fragile our sense of self truly is. True self-esteem doesn't need to be defended with arrogance or protected by excuses. It doesn't need to be bolstered by bragging or elevated through the belittlement of others. Instead, it strengthens when we are honest with ourselves and with others. By admitting our mistakes and taking responsibility for our actions, we build a sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on the opinions or validation of others. The more we practice humility and honesty, the more we nurture our self-esteem. This kind of self-esteem is resilient. It doesn't crumble in the face of failure, nor does it need to be exaggerated in the light of success. It is steady, unwavering, and grounded in reality. Therefore, instead of using arrogant or boastful language to prove ourselves, we should let our actions do the talking. A kind gesture, a thoughtful word, or an act of generosity speaks far louder and more meaningfully than any boast ever could. In the end, arrogance is merely a mask for insecurity, a defense mechanism that allows people to avoid facing their vulnerabilities. The real strength lies in embracing those vulnerabilities, being honest with ourselves and others, and finding peace with who we are, flaws and all. When we stop trying to prove ourselves through arrogant words and actions, we allow our true selves to shine through. And that is where true confidence and authentic connection with others can be found. Number 5. Navigating vulnerability in relationships. As relationships evolve and grow more intimate, there often comes a point where it feels like there are no more mysteries left, no more secrets to hold on to. It is natural to feel that, as you become closer to someone, you should start opening up more about your personal life, discussing small, everyday matters, like where you want to eat or which places you enjoy visiting, feels comfortable and even fun. These conversations rarely cause trouble. However, the moment you shift from the present to the past, especially when discussing your mistakes, regrets, or painful experiences, things can become tricky. We all carry the weight of past mistakes, poor decisions, and experiences we wish we could forget. Once you let those stories out and reveal those darker moments, they no longer belong solely to you. They become part of the other person's reality. No matter how much you might later wish you could take them back or pretend they never happened, those words cannot be unsaid. You cannot control how the other person will internalize that information, and you may unknowingly provide them with a tool that can be used against you in the future. This can create a vulnerability that is difficult to anticipate. The more you share about your past flaws, the more ammunition you give someone to hurt you, whether they mean to or not. What may seem like an innocent revelation at the moment could later become a weapon, perhaps wielded against you in the heat of an argument or brought up when you least expect it. This doesn't just affect how the other person sees you. It also impacts how you see yourself. Sharing too much, particularly about your negative experiences, can lead you to dwell on those flaws and mistakes more than necessary. Over time, it can erode your self-esteem, making you question your worth in the relationship. Revealing too much of your private life, especially the parts you aren't proud of, can put you at a disadvantage in your partner's eyes. Those stories may begin to overshadow the person you are today. Even if they care for you deeply, it becomes challenging to keep the focus on the present. Number 6. The importance of letting go of the past. Ignoring the baggage of the past can be a challenge, especially once it has been brought to light. It's important to recognize that it's not just your partner who is affected by the constant dredging up of flaws. Your friends, family, and others who care about you may start to see you differently if you repeatedly revisit your past mistakes. The more you relive those negative experiences, the more you reinforce them in your mind, creating a cycle of self-doubt that can be hard to escape. If you realize this too late, it can have devastating consequences. Relationships, no matter how strong, can crumble under the weight of excessive negativity, particularly when that negativity stems from constantly revisiting the past. You may find yourself in a situation where the very person you trusted with your deepest secrets now holds them over you, intentionally or not. This creates an imbalance in the relationship, making it increasingly difficult for you to move forward. As we mature, it becomes crucial to recognize the importance of controlling what we choose to share. It's not about being secretive or hiding parts of ourselves. It's about being wise and discerning. Instead of reopening old wounds or digging up past failures to build a meaningful connection, why not focus on the positive changes you've embraced? Share the growth you've experienced, the lessons you've learned, and how you've transformed into a better person. This shift not only redirects the narrative away from negativity, but also reinforces your self-worth. Constantly revisiting your flaws can skew your self-perception, and the more you do this, the harder it becomes to break free from that negative lens. Your past does not define you. However, if you keep bringing it up, it will start to feel as though it does. The key is to choose what you share carefully, understanding that some parts of your past are better left unspoken. This doesn't mean pretending to be perfect. Rather, it means recognizing that not every story needs to be told. There's immense power in focusing on the present and future, acknowledging your strengths and growth instead of your weaknesses and regrets. Protect yourself from unnecessary pain by keeping those darker chapters of your life where they belong, in the past. This doesn't mean denying their existence. It means choosing not to let them dominate your current narrative. By sharing more positive experiences and less negativity, you allow the other person to see you as you are now, not as you were then. Ultimately, relationships are built on trust, but trust doesn't require the full disclosure of every mistake you've ever made. It means sharing what's necessary to deepen your connection while retaining enough of yourself to ensure your self-esteem remains intact. The stories you choose to share should uplift and help build stronger bonds, not create opportunities for regret or hurt later on. By doing this, you protect not only your relationship, but also your sense of self-worth. Let your actions and your present self define who you are today. The past can remain where it belongs. This approach not only strengthens your relationships, but also fosters a healthier view of yourself. You are not defined by your flaws. You are defined by the growth and wisdom you have gained through life's journey. Therefore, choose your words carefully, speak thoughtfully, and remember that not every flaw needs to be shared. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is let your actions and your current self speak for themselves, leaving the past where it belongs. Number 7. The challenge of anger and loneliness. As we grow older, we often hear people say that we become more like children, quick to anger over the smallest things. On the surface, this might seem like a reasonable observation. After all, just as a child can fly into a rage over something trivial, elderly people can also lose patience and become frustrated over seemingly minor matters. I won't pretend that I'm any different. I too have moments when my temper flares up, and I know it's all too easy to become irritable. However, what often lurks beneath the surface of this anger is not the trivial matter at hand, but something much deeper: loneliness. Loneliness has a way of eating at us, especially as we age. It's not just about being physically alone. It's about feeling like your presence, your very existence, is no longer valued or acknowledged. When we feel overlooked or when it seems like people are moving on without us, that's when anger can arise. It becomes a way of saying, "I still matter. Don't forget about me." Unfortunately, this anger doesn't bring us the validation we seek. Instead, it pushes others away and leaves us feeling even more isolated. I remember a specific time when anger got the best of me. I had heard that a group of people I considered close to me was holding a meeting without my knowledge. I was furious. The thought gnawed at me. How could they do this? How could they deliberately exclude me as if I no longer mattered? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I questioned my place in the group and wondered if I had become so insignificant. My self-esteem took a heavy blow. Instead of voicing my feelings, I swallowed my anger and silently fumed, letting it build up inside me. Then, someone from the group called me, and instead of offering an apology or explanation, they said something that made my blood boil even more. "Have you been feeling unwell recently, or are you so successful that you no longer need to attend our meetings?" It felt like an insult, a mockery of my place within the group. At that moment, all my bottled-up frustration spilled out and I snapped. This experience taught me that anger, especially as we age, often signals deeper emotional issues. Rather than letting anger dictate our responses, we need to recognize its root cause and find healthier ways to express our feelings. Embracing open communication and connection with others can help mitigate feelings of loneliness and ensure our relationships remain strong and supportive. Understanding this dynamic allows us to respond with compassion, both for ourselves and for those around us. Number 8, the burden of anger and the power of positivity. Daring to express my frustration, I confronted my colleagues. "I am a former chairman. Why did you hold a meeting for former and current members with Abraham?" I was livid, feeling utterly disrespected and sidelined. But then came a response that made me freeze. The person on the other end asked, "Why didn't you notify us earlier? Please check the message once more." Confused and still seething, I hung up the phone and immediately checked my messages. There it was, an invitation to the meeting that I had somehow missed. The anger that had consumed me transformed into deep embarrassment. I realized that I had allowed my emotions to get the better of me without fully understanding the situation. Still, I had lashed out, showing my temper in a way that made me look foolish and stubborn in the eyes of others. Humbled and ashamed, I called back to apologize. "I'm truly sorry," I said. "I hadn't seen the message." I begged them to keep this incident a secret, but the damage had already been done. What could have been a simple misunderstanding, resolved with a little patience, had turned into an embarrassing episode, all because I let my anger control me. Reflecting on that situation, I recognized an important lesson. In old age, we cannot afford to be ruled by stubbornness or negative emotions. We must learn to be gentle with ourselves, to show kindness to our souls, and to let go of anger before it consumes us. Anger, especially in old age, is not a privilege or a badge of honor. It is a burden that weighs us down, distracts us from the joys of life, and causes unnecessary pain. Children may get angry, cry, and throw tantrums as part of their growth and development, But for the elderly, anger serves no purpose. It is a hollow emotion that eats away at our peace and leaves us bitter. The truth is, as we age, we need to step away from emotions like anger, greed, and jealousy. These feelings do not bring us happiness. They only trap us in the past, obsessing over what we've gained or lost, what we have achieved or failed to achieve. None of that matters anymore. What truly matters is how we live in this moment. The key to a peaceful life as we grow older is learning to control our emotions and to live with patience and calm. Anger often stems from loneliness and the fear that we are no longer important. However, we cannot let that fear dictate our behavior. We cannot allow anger, however justified it may seem, to rob us of our inner peace. The time we have left is too precious to waste on feelings that only hurt us. Instead, we should aim to live with a sense of contentment, untethered from the weight of past grievances or unmet expectations. When you stop the waves of anger in your heart, you open yourself up to a life of tranquility. You allow yourself to experience the present fully, without the baggage of the past dragging you down. That peace and serenity is the greatest gift you can give yourself, and that no amount of anger or frustration can take that away unless you allow it to. So let go of the anger. Let it pass through you without taking hold. Live as if each moment is a new opportunity to find peace, to love, and to be grateful for the life you have. There is so much beauty in the world, even in the small, quiet moments, but you can only see it when you're not clouded by anger. This, I believe, is how we should choose to live as we grow older, free from the chains of past hurt and anger, and open to the peace and happiness that life still has to offer. Number 9. The impact of illness on our perspective. After addressing the emotional weight of anger, it's essential to discuss another undeniable truth. Our feelings profoundly influence our lives. Often we are ruled more by our emotions than by logic or reason. We tend to react to situations based on how we feel in the moment, and those emotions shape our mood, outlook, and ultimately our experience of happiness. Our feelings can lift us or weigh us down, especially as we grow older. However, no matter the challenges we face, including those related to our health, there is something powerful about choosing to focus on positivity, not just for others, but also for ourselves. Unfortunately, it's all too common to see older adults fall into the habit of constantly discussing their illnesses. We've all witnessed it, whether on the streets, in cafes, or at social gatherings, groups of elderly people who immediately steer the conversation toward their latest doctor visits, chronic pain, or medications. Back pain, headaches, arthritis, diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney problems, you name it. It becomes the centerpiece of their discussions, as if their identities become entwined with their ailments, viewing themselves solely as patients rather than vibrant individuals with lives beyond their health issues. While it's perfectly understandable to have concerns about your health, it is disheartening to see how this type of conversation can dominate interactions. What's even more unfortunate is that it's rare to hear someone say, "I'm still healthy and living actively." We forget that, while our health may not be perfect, focusing solely on our ailments does little to improve our physical or emotional well-being. Yes, many older adults need to take medications or go for regular checkups, but immediately launching into a discussion about illness when meeting others only brings the mood down and dampens the atmosphere. Instead, we should strive to strike a balance in our conversations, sharing positive experiences, interests, and joys can create a more uplifting atmosphere and remind ourselves and others that life is still rich and full of possibilities, regardless of health challenges. By focusing on positivity and resilience, we not only enhance our own well-being, but also foster a sense of connection with those around us. This shift in perspective allows us to embrace life with gratitude, opening the door to joy and contentment, even in the face of adversity. Number 10. Embracing positivity. Amidst challenges, creating a cloud of negativity can be hard to shake off, especially when we dwell on our illnesses or pains. Our emotional landscape significantly influences our daily experiences, shaping how we perceive ourselves and interact with others. So what's the alternative to this negativity? Instead of focusing on what ails us, we can shift our attention to something positive. When you meet others, seize the opportunity to uplift both them and yourself. A simple compliment can work wonders. For example, you might remark, "Your hair looks fantastic. Where did you get it done?" Or, "You seem so vibrant today. What's your secret?" These small gestures not only brighten the day of the person you're speaking with, but also enhance your mood. Positivity is contagious. When you create a light-hearted atmosphere, you benefit as much as those around you. It fosters a sense of connection and joy that can be transformative for both parties involved. Focusing on positive aspects invites joy and happiness into our lives, much like planting a seed that blooms in unexpected ways. When we water the seeds of positivity, we cultivate an environment where happiness can flourish. In contrast, constantly discussing how tired you feel or how much pain you're enduring can bring down the mood and lead to a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we dwell on negative emotions, the more entrenched we become in that mindset. If you're still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know you're here with me. Your engagement reinforces the idea that we are not alone in this journey. Repeating phrases like, "I'm so tired," or "It hurts so much," convinces your mind, and even your body, that these statements are true, amplifying your suffering.